Hello and welcome to another video. This is Voorhees Retro 81 and I am video responding to, and this will surprise all of you, I am video responding to Gull Payne once more. Always a pleasure to video respond to Gull. Always got some interesting topics going on, and if you haven't before you should definitely go and check out his channel. So he asks, what do you like about modern gaming? And I believe that was asked via Roger Retro Gamer before. I think Gull has a link to the original topic going on. So I mean, I've covered before that I'm maybe not the first person to talk to about certainly like sort of bleeding edge modern gaming. I am more of a kind of like I play more classic games, retro games, whatever you want to call them, just predominantly because of like time constraints, and that's kind of what I grew up on, and like that's what, like, you know, that's where a lot of my taste in gaming is. But I do think there are some really good things that have come out of you know, increases in like technology that's available to developers. You know, the size of games you can make, you know, the quality of graphics, etc. And there were two things I thought I'd really like to talk about. The first one is non-linear gameplay. Now, I know, and I feel like it's worth pointing out, that non-linear gameplay is not in any way restricted to high technology games and modern games and AAA games and such like. Non-linear gameplay is definitely a development and planning choice. It's not something that's been freed up by technology per se, but something that definitely is kind of a product of like the last 2 or 3 generations of gaming technologies, proper open world gaming. You know, games where, like, you know, if I look off into the distance there, and, you know, I could just walk in a straight line into that forest right now and see what's on the other side of it. And, you know, when I started playing games in 1984, that was, you know, that was just something that wasn't going to happen. You know, even in things like, you know, you couldn't, like, be immersed in the entire universe of the game and move around it at will, even though there were like quite a lot of non-linear experiences, like, you know, text adventures, early RPGs like the Strategic Simulations Inc. and Ultima type series. So, you know, that is a really big thing, and I think that's probably been my predominant takeaway and what I really enjoy about, you know, modern gaming. And I think when I may be slightly oversizing the bracket that's being talked about here, but when I think of modern gaming, I'm kind of thinking like post PlayStation 2, you know, your PlayStation 3, 360, PS4, and I mean, I don't know what's going on the Xbox, and I don't have a PlayStation 5, but I have kept a, you know, I've kept a sort of weathered eye on the PlayStation 5 situation, and that doesn't really seem to be kind of like established as a platform yet, to me anyway. It feels like, you know, it feels like in between all the things like, you know, the cost of development and you know, COVID and the superconductor issue and such like, I feel like, you know, the current gen, it looks a bit like it's still got a lot of, you know, there's a lot of time before we're really noticing the difference between that and the previous sort of PlayStation 4, Xbox One sort of generation. I've realised that I've forgotten to put my stopwatch on, so I have no idea how much time I've been yammering on for, but I would imagine it's probably about 5 minutes, so if I whack a stopwatch on and I try not to go over 10, that should probably cover it. The other thing is kind of, it's a similar kind of bracket to that, but one of the things that I think is a really big plus about modern gaming is that sort of development tools are much more available to developers. So, you know, on in previous generations, before like the PlayStation 4 generation, I feel like, you know, while there were exceptions to this, most independent games were kind of confined to like the sort of faux retro genres and sort of smaller experiences, where now you're seeing independent developers come up with like some really interesting concepts and you know, some really big sort of impressive and well realized and very stylish games. So like independent development seems to it kind of like the current generation and the, like, you know, resurgence of independent gaming has resulted in quite a lot of really interesting sort of left of field experiences where, you know, if you look at like the 360 and the PlayStation 2 kind of generation, you weren't getting that as much, I don't feel. And I think also like all the technology and the availability of the technology and, you know, the way that a lot of things have kind of like been sort of boiled, you know, there's much more power and sort of rendering ability available to people, but the development tools are also slightly, you know, they're more accessible now, and that means that you're getting a lot more, you know, there's a lot more sort of choice of experience on, like, you know, the modern consoles and modern PC gaming than there was kind of like, you know, at the start of the 360 PS3 era. I feel, you know, there were a lot more games that are kind of quite unique in the way they look and the way they feel and such like, and I think that's a really good thing, because, you know, I mean, I like, you know, I don't know what you want to call a generic game. You know, I like Halo or Call of Duty or you know, Tomb Raider or whatever. Well, maybe not Tomb Raider. I'm not that massive Tomb Raider guy, but, you know, I like those kind of mainstream games as much as the next man. But I really like there to be like a variety of different options. So, like, you know, if I don't want to play like generic war shooter that week, you know, I can dive into something like, I mean, I've been playing Code Vein recently, which is quite a good game. It's a bit janky, but it kind of pays. They're putting up, persevering with the fact that it's a, you know, borderline independent kind of game that's like quite rough around the edges in terms of the way it controls and such. Like, it does kind of pay off in that you get access to this interesting and quite artistically stylish world, and it's not, you know, it's not generic or cookie cutter in any kind of way. So, you know, that's pretty cool, and it's nice to have those alternatives, and it's nice to not get kind of funneled down the, you know, you have these games and you play these games, or you don't play these games. But if you don't want to play these games, then there's not much point in having the system kind of situation. And I think the success of the Switch as well has proved to a lot of the industry that actually people are not just interested in like the sort of the casual, everybody's playing this game so you should too type experiences. They're also interested in, you know, things like you know, sort of niche titles and trying out new things, and yeah, those are the two things I really wanted to talk about. I mean, I think those are the two massive positives that I've kind of taken away from like the last few generations of gaming. That, you know, games, there's so much more like real choice as to how you play a lot of these new games, and we're also kind of coming full circle to a point, I feel, where, you know, we're once again back into that era that you had with the, like, you know, the Commodore 64, the Speccy, the Amstrad, and then going forward the Amiga and the ST, where, you know, people could just make games in their back rooms, in their flats, in their basement or whatever, and as a result, you know, sometimes people who are like really passionate about creating those games create things that are way more interesting than what's going on with the, you know, massive $1 million development teams. So yeah, it's just you know, I mean, I've kind of booked out of consoles of late, not because not because I think they're crap or anything like that, you know, just like you know, given that I have a like largely gaming ready Windows PC and everything's multi-platform now, it just seems absolutely redundant to buy like a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox One S or whatever it's called, Xbox Special K, I used to call it as a joke. I mean, it's, you know, no disrespect to the system, I've got no idea what it's like. It might be amazing, I haven't touched it, but you know, all the acronyms and everything with like the Xbox kind of started to get on my nerves a bit. You know, just call it the Xbox 3 or whatever. You know, I know you're trying to be different or whatever, but it does just seem a bit pretentious to me. But I'm sure that's a really good system as well. But yeah, I mean, you know, it just seems like, you know, have one of the three: have a gaming PC, have a PlayStation 4 or 5, or you know, an Xbox One or an Xbox Special thingy, or you know, just do what Xbox Series X, isn't it? Xbox Series something anyway. Those ones, the weird like blocky tower things. I genuinely couldn't remember it because it's just confusing. But yeah, so that's kind of where I sit. You know, I think it's a pretty interesting time for games, and there's a lot of very, you know, very different and unique games coming out, and I don't think that was quite happening in previous generations, so that's pretty exciting. Anyhow, I hope you found that interesting. Take care of yourselves. Thanks again to Gull for the interesting topic, and do go check out his channel because it is rad. And I'll speak to you all again soon. Much love and peace out.